They're here.
"Save my tribe, and I'll give you strong offspring,"
Here.
said the desperate Apache woman to the cowboy. The sun was beginning to sink behind the jagged edges of the Arizona desert, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red. Dust swirled along the worn trails, carried by a wind that smelled faintly of sage and dry earth. A lone figure moved steadily across the rocky ground, a cowboy with a wide-brimmed hat shading his face, and a coat that had seen countless suns and storms. His name was James Walker, though most people in the frontier knew him simply as Walker. He had spent years riding these lands, guiding cattle, scouting trails, and keeping an eye out for trouble. Life had taught him to rely on his instincts, to trust his eyes and ears above all else. On this particular evening, Walker was following the tracks of a small herd of cattle that had wandered off from a nearby ranch. The trail led him through a narrow canyon, where shadows stretched long and deep. The quiet of the desert was both comforting and unnerving. It was a silence that could hide anything, from a rattlesnake coiled among the rocks to a band of outlaws waiting for an easy target. Walker's hand hovered near the rifle strapped across his back, not because he expected danger at every turn, but because he had learned to be prepared. As he moved further into the canyon, something unusual caught his eye. Among the rocks and scrub, he spotted signs of human presence, a small fire pit smoldering slightly and footprints that weren't cattle tracks. Walker slowed, crouching slightly as he observed. The prints were fresh, and he noticed they were too small to belong to a man, yet too purposeful to be made by a child. Someone was here nearby. He followed the signs carefully, stepping lightly to avoid making noise. As he rounded a bend in the canyon, he came upon a scene that made him stop in his tracks. Hidden behind a cluster of boulders was a small encampment, nearly invisible from the main path. There were tents made from hides, and a few children playing quietly near a stream. Women were moving about, tending small fires, and men were checking traps and gathering water. It was clear this was not just a temporary stop. It was a living, breathing community, a tribe that had claimed this secluded part of the desert as their home. Walker had seen many things in his time, but he had never come across a tribe so hidden, so carefully protected from the outside world. As he watched, he noticed a woman standing apart from the others, her posture tense, her eyes scanning the horizon. She was tall and strong, with dark hair that fell loosely around her shoulders. Something about her presence was different. She radiated a quiet intensity, a determination that seemed almost magnetic. Suddenly, she noticed him. Their eyes met across the distance, and she didn't look afraid. She looked as if she had been expecting him. Walker instinctively took a step back, unsure if he had stumbled into danger. But instead of retreating, she began to approach him, moving with a grace and confidence that immediately commanded his attention. When she was close enough, she stopped and spoke in a voice that was firm but tinged with urgency. "Cowboy," she said, using the word cautiously as if testing him, "I need your help. My people are in danger." Walker raised an eyebrow, studying her. He had heard many pleas for help over the years, and most of them ended in disappointment or betrayal. But there was something different about this woman, something he could not ignore. "Danger?" he asked, keeping his tone calm. "What kind of danger are we talking about?" She looked around briefly, then leaned closer. "Raiders are coming. They will destroy our homes and take our people if we do not act. You can help us, but you must move quickly." Walker hesitated. Helping strangers, especially a group so isolated, was risky. He had no idea if he could trust them or if he could even make a difference. And yet there was a raw honesty in her eyes that spoke louder than words. She was desperate, yes, but also brave, someone who would fight for her people until the very end. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally, his voice steady. She straightened, her eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. "Save my tribe," she said, "and I will give you something no one else can, a chance to leave a legacy, to create strong offspring who will carry both our strengths into the future." Walker blinked, taken aback. The offer was unusual, startling even. He had never heard such a promise before, and it made him pause, not because of the meaning behind it, but because it revealed the gravity of the situation. This woman was willing to promise the most personal of bonds to ensure the survival of her people. It was both shocking and deeply human, a reminder that survival could make people do extraordinary things. He looked at her more closely. She was not only strong but intelligent and capable. There was a fire in her eyes that matched the fire in her heart. He realized that she was not pleading out of weakness. She was offering an alliance based on mutual need. She had carefully considered her options and had come to the conclusion that he might be the only person capable of helping them. Walker finally nodded, the weight of responsibility settling over him. He was no stranger to risk, but this was unlike anything he had faced before. Saving a tribe of people he had never met, in a land that was as unforgiving as it was beautiful, was a challenge that would test every skill he had learned over the years. And yet, he felt a spark of purpose he had not felt in a long time. "All right," he said, his voice low but resolute. "Tell me what I need to do." The woman's face softened slightly, a mixture of relief and hope shining through. "Follow me," she said. "I will show you what must be done, but you must move carefully. Every step counts." As they walked toward the camp, Walker observed the people more closely. The children were quiet but curious, peering out from behind their mothers. The men were wary, hands resting lightly on tools and weapons, ready to defend their homes at a moment's notice. There was a sense of community here, a bond that had been forged through hardship and survival. It was clear why this woman was willing to risk so much for them. She led him to a larger tent at the edge of the encampment. Inside, maps and sketches were laid out on a rough wooden table. She pointed to various locations on the map, explaining the movements of the raiders and the areas most vulnerable to attack. Walker listened intently, taking in every detail. He could see the logic in her strategy, the careful planning that went into every decision. "We do not have many fighters," she explained. "Most of our people are farmers, hunters, and gatherers. They are brave, but they are not trained for battle. That is why I need you." Walker nodded again, understanding the gravity of the situation. He had fought in skirmishes and defended ranches, but leading people who had never faced organized attacks would be a challenge. Still, he felt a sense of duty rising within him, a call to action that he could not ignore. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert. As night approached, Walker realized that this encounter was the beginning of something far larger than a simple act of heroism. It was a test of courage, of loyalty, and of the bonds that could form between two people from entirely different worlds. And though he did not yet know the full scope of what lay ahead, he felt ready to face it, one step at a time. The desert night settled over the canyon, cool and quiet, but filled with a tension that promised both danger and opportunity. The woman stood beside him, a determined figure against the fading light, ready to fight for her people. And Walker, for the first time in years, felt that he was exactly where he needed to be. Walker spent the first hours of the night observing the camp from a small rise just outside the main area. The flickering light of the fires illuminated the faces of the people, young and old, all moving with quiet purpose. He could see the children huddled near their mothers, listening to stories or whispering to one another. The adults moved with practiced efficiency, carrying water, repairing tents, or tending small fires to cook whatever little food they had. There was a rhythm to their movements, a discipline that came from years of surviving in a harsh and unforgiving land. The woman, whose name he had learned was Aeon, approached him once more. She moved lightly over the rocky ground, her eyes sharp and attentive. "We need to prepare," she said softly, careful not to alarm the others. "The raiders are not far. We can hear their horses sometimes at dawn, and when they are close, they will strike without mercy." Walker studied her face. She was young, but the weight of responsibility in her eyes made her seem older. She had the strength of someone who had carried more than her share of burdens, someone who had learned to lead out of necessity rather than desire. He had seen leaders like her before, but few so quietly determined, so focused on the survival of others rather than themselves. "What exactly do you need me to do?" he asked. Aeon spread her arms toward the camp, gesturing to the people moving about. "I need you to train some of the men and older boys," she said. "They are brave, but they do not know how to fight like you do. I also need your advice for setting traps and making defensive positions. If we can prepare properly, we can protect everyone." Walker nodded slowly. It was not going to be easy. These people were not warriors by trade, and teaching them quickly while also preparing defenses would take every ounce of skill he had. But he felt a sense of purpose that he had not felt in years. Helping Aeon and her people would be more than a challenge, it would be meaningful. He began by gathering a few of the older men and boys who showed the most promise. They were hesitant at first, unsure of what a stranger could teach them. But Walker had a way of demonstrating his knowledge without arrogance, and soon they began to follow his instructions carefully. He showed them how to hold a weapon properly, how to move quietly without making noise, and how to anticipate an enemy's approach. Even the simplest techniques, when demonstrated clearly, seemed to instill confidence in them. Aeon watched from a distance, her eyes following every movement. She could see the way the men were responding to him, and she felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time in weeks, she believed that they might have a real chance to defend their people. She approached him again after a while, carrying a small tray of food. "You must eat something," she said. "You cannot help us if you are weak." Walker accepted the food with a small nod of thanks. "I've lived on worse," he said with a faint smile, "but this is better than nothing." As they ate quietly, the two of them began to talk. Walker learned more about Aeon's people, how they had lived in this hidden part of the desert for generations, and how they had managed to survive despite numerous hardships. He learned about the stories of their ancestors, their traditions, and their deep connection to the land. In return, he shared some of his own experiences, though he was careful not to overstate his knowledge. "You have been through a lot," Aeon said softly. "And yet you came here anyway. Why?" Walker paused, looking out at the dark horizon. "I don't know if it's courage," he admitted. "Maybe it's just that I know what it feels like to be helpless. I can't stand by and watch people suffer if I can do something about it." Aeon studied him for a moment, then nodded. "That is enough," she said. "Your heart is in the right place, and that is more important than skill alone." The night wore on, and the camp settled into an uneasy quiet. Walker patrolled the perimeter with a few of the men, pointing out weak points and suggesting simple improvements. They dug small trenches, reinforced tents, and created barriers using rocks and branches. Every movement was deliberate, every instruction careful, and Walker could see the men growing more confident with each task. As dawn approached, a distant sound reached their ears, hooves striking the hard ground, faint but steady. Walker tensed. "That's them," he said quietly. "They're closer than I thought." Aeon appeared at his side, her expression calm but determined. "We are ready," she said. "We have done everything we can. Now we must wait and see what happens." The first rays of sunlight touched the desert floor, casting long shadows across the encampment. Walker and the men moved to their positions, while Aeon stayed with the children and the women, keeping them calm and quiet. There was a tension in the air that could be cut with a knife, a mixture of fear and hope, worry and determination. Hours passed slowly. The hooves grew louder, and finally, shapes appeared on the horizon. A small band of riders, rough and determined, were moving toward the camp. Walker signaled to the men to stay hidden, to wait for the right moment. His heart pounded, but his mind was focused. He had trained them as best he could, and now it was time to see if it was enough. The raiders reached the edge of the camp, unaware of the traps and barriers that had been set. Walker watched carefully, noting their movements and waiting for the precise moment to act. Then, with a sharp signal, he and the men emerged, taking the attackers by surprise. The confrontation was quick and chaotic, but the preparation had made the difference. The raiders were unprepared for the tactics they faced, and Walker's guidance helped the tribe hold their ground. Aeon moved among the women and children, keeping them calm and safe. She watched Walker from a distance, pride and admiration filling her heart. He was brave, skilled, and completely dedicated to their cause. She realized that they had formed a bond in just a short time, a bond built on trust, respect, and a shared desire to protect what was most important. By the time the sun was fully up, the raiders had retreated, leaving the camp intact. The tribe had suffered minor injuries, but no lives were lost. Relief washed over Walker and Aeon as they surveyed the scene. The men and boys who had been trained by Walker were exhausted but proud of what they had accomplished. They had faced real danger and survived, and their confidence had grown tremendously. Aeon approached Walker, her face lit by the morning sun. "You saved us," she said simply, her voice filled with gratitude. "I cannot thank you enough." Walker shook his head. "No, you saved yourselves," he replied. "I just helped a little. You all have the courage and strength to protect your own people. I just showed you how." For a moment they stood in silence, both aware of the bond that had formed between them. It was more than just survival. It was trust, respect, and a sense of shared purpose. Walker realized that this experience was changing him, just as he was helping to change them. As the tribe began to clean up and tend to the wounded, Walker and Aeon walked through the camp, discussing future plans. They knew the danger was not over. Raiders could return, and there were other threats in the desert, but they were better prepared now. They had proven to themselves that they could work together, and that was a victory in itself. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the camp had returned to a sense of normalcy. Children played quietly, women prepared food, and men worked on repairs. Walker sat with Aeon for a moment, sharing a simple meal and enjoying the rare sense of peace. They had faced danger together, and in doing so, had formed a connection that neither would forget. Walker knew that this was just the beginning of a longer journey. The desert was vast and unforgiving, and the challenges ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. But for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of hope, not just for himself, but for Aeon and her people. He had come into their world as a stranger, but he was beginning to understand what it meant to be part of something greater than himself. Aeon looked at him, her eyes reflecting both the sunlight and the fire of determination that had brought them this far. "We can do this," she said quietly. "Together," Walker nodded. "Together," he agreed, knowing that their bond had become something powerful, something that could help them face whatever came next in the harsh, beautiful desert. The morning sun climbed higher over the desert, casting bright light across the rugged landscape. Walker awoke early, his senses alert as always. Though the previous day's confrontation had ended in success, he knew the danger was far from over. Aeon had made it clear that the raiders would not give up easily. They would return, perhaps with more numbers, perhaps with more cunning. The tribe needed preparation, and he was determined to help them every step of the way. He found Aeon near the edge of the camp, examining the barricades and the small trenches that had been dug the night before. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, her hands smoothing the edges of the defenses. She noticed him and nodded. "We have learned something important," she said. "The raiders are strong, but we have strength too. If we prepare wisely, we can defend our people without unnecessary loss." Walker joined her, studying the camp carefully. He knew that survival depended not just on courage, but on strategy. "We need to think about every possible way they could attack," he said. "We can't rely only on strength. We need cleverness, traps, and planning." Aeon listened closely, her eyes sharp. "I will follow your guidance," she said. Teach us everything we need to know." Walker began by gathering the men who had shown the greatest skill and understanding the previous day. He focused on teaching them more advanced techniques. He showed them how to move quietly over the rocky terrain, how to spot signs of approaching danger, and how to communicate silently with hand signals. Every lesson was reinforced by practice, and every man began to gain confidence. Next, he turned his attention to the defenses of the camp. Together with Aeon, they strengthened the barricades, placing hidden pitfalls and tripwires around the perimeter. They covered weak points in the tents and created hidden escape routes for the women and children. Walker emphasized the importance of thinking like the enemy, predicting where the raiders might strike and how they could be stopped. While they worked, Walker and Aeon spoke quietly, sharing their thoughts on the coming days. Aeon revealed more about the raiders, explaining how they had terrorized other tribes in the region and why their own group had been targeted. Her voice was calm but firm, a mixture of sorrow and determination. "We have survived many hardships," she said. "But if we fail this time, it will be the end for us. That is why your help matters so much." Walker nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had faced danger many times before, but leading and training a group of people who were untrained in battle added a new level of pressure. Every decision he made could affect the lives of many, but he also felt a sense of purpose stronger than any he had known. This was not just about skill or survival, it was about trust, courage, and hope. As the day progressed, they worked tirelessly. Walker moved among the men, correcting mistakes, encouraging progress, and pushing them to reach their potential. Aeon coordinated with the women, organizing food, water, and medical supplies, ensuring that everyone in the camp had a role to play. The tribe began to function like a well-coordinated unit, each person contributing to the larger goal of survival. By mid-afternoon, Walker decided it was time to test their readiness. He organized a series of drills, simulating attacks and observing how the men responded. At first, mistakes were made. Men tripped over hidden obstacles, misread signals, or hesitated when action was needed. But with Walker's guidance and encouragement, they quickly learned from their errors. Each drill ended with a discussion, analyzing what went right and what needed improvement. Aeon watched closely, impressed by Walker's patience and expertise. She could see the transformation happening before her eyes. The men who had been unsure and hesitant were now confident and capable. The tribe was becoming stronger, more prepared, and more united than ever. She felt a surge of pride in her people and gratitude toward the cowboy who had come into their lives. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Walker and Aeon returned to the edge of the camp to survey their work. The defenses were solid, the men were alert, and the children and women were safe in their temporary shelters. "We have done well today," Walker said, his voice low but satisfied. "But the real test will come when the raiders return. We must remain ready, vigilant, and calm." Aeon nodded. "I trust you," she said simply. "Your knowledge and guidance have given us a chance to survive, and I will do everything I can to protect my people alongside you." That evening, as the desert air cooled and stars began to twinkle overhead, Walker shared a quiet moment with Aeon. They sat together near a small fire, the light flickering across their faces. "You have a remarkable people," Walker said. "They are strong, brave, and loyal. And you are wise and fearless. That combination makes you nearly unstoppable." Aeon smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and humility. "Strength comes from survival," she said. "We have endured many challenges and we will endure more. But having someone like you with us, it gives us hope we have not felt in a long time." Walker looked into the distance, toward the dark horizon. He knew she was right. Hope was a powerful force, perhaps more powerful than any weapon. And hope, combined with preparation, could turn the tide against even the most determined enemy. The following days were filled with continued preparation. Walker trained the men in stealth and tactics, while Aeon coordinated the logistics of the camp. Together, they devised strategies for defending every possible approach to the village. They also considered contingency plans, preparing for emergencies or unexpected attacks. The tribe, once vulnerable and uncertain, was now becoming disciplined and capable under their guidance. Walker and Aeon also took time to teach the tribe about teamwork and trust. They emphasized that every person's role was important, no matter how small it seemed. Children learned to help with supplies, women practiced simple first aid, and men trained rigorously for the possibility of combat. Slowly but surely, the camp transformed into a community ready to face danger, united by purpose and guided by careful planning. One afternoon, while scouting the area with a small group of men, Walker noticed signs that the raiders were indeed returning. Fresh tracks in the sand, broken branches, and the distant sound of hooves told him that the threat was drawing near. He and the men returned to the camp quickly, informing Aeon and the rest of the tribe. The news brought tension, but it also reinforced the importance of their preparations. Aeon gathered everyone together, speaking calmly but firmly. "The danger is real," she said. "But we are ready. We have trained, we have planned, and we have each other. Remember what we have learned, trust one another, and we will protect our homes." Walker watched her speak and felt a deep sense of respect. Aeon was not only a leader but also an inspiration to her people. Her courage and wisdom had guided them through fear and uncertainty, and now she stood strong in the face of approaching danger. As night fell, the camp settled into tense anticipation. Fires were kept low and everyone stayed alert. Walker patrolled the perimeter one last time, checking traps and obstacles. The desert was silent, but the threat was very real. He knew that the coming confrontation would test everything they had worked for, but he also knew that the tribe was ready. Sitting near a small fire, Walker and Aeon shared a quiet moment together. "We've done all we can," Walker said. "Now it's up to them." Aeon nodded, her expression serious but composed. "And up to us," she added. "We will stand together, we will fight together, and we will survive together." The stars above the desert twinkled, silent witnesses to the determination and courage below. Walker felt a mix of anticipation, tension, and quiet confidence. The raiders were coming, but the tribe was no longer unprepared or vulnerable. They had learned to fight, to think, and to trust one another. And with Aeon's guidance and his own experience, they were ready to face the challenges ahead. As the night deepened, Walker took a moment to reflect. He had come to this hidden corner of the desert as a stranger, but he was no longer an outsider. He was part of something greater, a community bound together by courage, loyalty, and the will to survive. And whatever came next, he knew that they would face it as one, united and ready. The quiet desert held its breath, waiting for the dawn and the inevitable confrontation. But for now, in the stillness of the night, Walker and Aeon sat side by side, ready to face whatever the future held together. The desert night was unusually quiet, the stillness broken only by the whisper of the wind across the rocks. Walker stood near the edge of the camp, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. Every shadow, every distant sound felt like a warning. The previous days of preparation had brought them here, but now it was the moment of truth. The raiders were approaching, and there would be no more time to prepare. Aeon moved beside him, calm but alert. Her eyes swept over the camp, checking that the women and children were safely hidden. The men, who had been trained by Walker, were stationed at key points along the perimeter, their faces serious and determined. The younger boys, though inexperienced, stood ready to support wherever they could. The entire tribe held its collective breath, waiting for the first sign of danger. Walker signaled to the men to stay quiet and watch closely. "They'll come in small groups first, testing our defenses," he whispered. "Stay alert, move only when necessary, and follow the plan." Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. Then, faintly at first, the sound of hooves echoed across the desert floor. The raiders were close. Walker's heart quickened, but he forced himself to remain calm. This was what they had trained for, and he trusted the men and women he had prepared. The first group of raiders emerged from the shadows, moving cautiously toward the camp. Walker gave a subtle signal, and the trained men sprang into action. Hidden traps were triggered, and the first attackers stumbled, caught off guard by the clever defenses. The raiders were strong, but they had not anticipated such preparation. Panic rippled through their ranks as they realized the tribe was ready. Aeon moved among the children and women, keeping them calm and quiet. Her presence was steadying, a beacon of strength and courage. She whispered words of reassurance, reminding them that the men were prepared and that they would be safe if they followed instructions. The fear in their eyes was still present, but it was tempered by trust in her leadership and the protection around them. Walker took a position on higher ground, observing the battlefield. He directed the men with precise instructions, signaling when to strike, when to retreat, and when to block the enemy's advance. Every movement was calculated, and the raiders found themselves facing a force they had underestimated. The trained men were quick and coordinated, their confidence growing with each successful maneuver. Despite the initial chaos, the raiders regrouped and launched a stronger attack. They were relentless, pushing forward with determination and aggression. Walker knew that this was the true test. The tribe had learned to defend themselves, but now they had to face the full force of an experienced enemy. "Hold your ground," Walker shouted, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Do not let them break through." The men responded with courage, standing firm against the raiders' charge. Some engaged in hand-to-hand combat, while others used makeshift weapons and traps to keep the attackers at bay. The sound of shouting, the clash of weapons, and the pounding of hooves filled the air. The desert, which had been silent for so long, now echoed with the struggle for survival. Walker noticed one group of raiders attempting to flank the camp from the left. He signaled to a small team of men to intercept them. The maneuver was risky, but necessary. The men moved quickly and silently, surprising the attackers and forcing them to retreat. The flanking attempt had failed, and the morale of the raiders began to waver. Aeon, seeing the progress from her position, felt a surge of hope. The tribe was fighting bravely, and the training had made a real difference. She also recognized the importance of keeping the children and women out of danger, ensuring that no one was unnecessarily harmed. Her leadership was as crucial as Walker's tactics on the battlefield. As the battle continued, both sides experienced losses. The raiders were strong and experienced, and even with preparation, the tribe suffered minor injuries. Walker moved among the fighters, helping where needed, encouraging the men, and ensuring that everyone stayed coordinated. His calm presence and strategic thinking kept the tribe focused and united. Hours passed, each moment filled with tension and uncertainty. The sun began to rise, casting light over the desert and revealing the full scale of the battlefield. The raiders, exhausted and demoralized by the tribe's unexpected resilience, began to retreat. Walker and Aeon signaled the men to pursue cautiously, ensuring that the raiders could not regroup for another attack. When the dust finally settled, the camp was still intact. The tribe had suffered some injuries, but no lives were lost. Relief and exhaustion swept through the people, and a quiet sense of triumph replaced the earlier fear. Walker surveyed the scene, proud of the tribe's courage and perseverance. They had faced real danger and emerged victorious, a testament to their preparation, teamwork, and determination. Aeon approached Walker, her face lit with a mix of pride and gratitude. "We did it," she said quietly. "Thanks to you, we survived. We protected our people." Walker shook his head, humbled. "No," he replied. "You did it. I only guided you. The courage, the strength, and the will to fight came from you all. You saved yourselves and your tribe. The tribe began to gather together, tending to the wounded, repairing damages, and sharing food and water. There was a sense of unity, a bond formed through shared struggle and mutual support. For Walker, it was a powerful reminder of the strength that could emerge when people worked together with purpose and trust. Aeon moved among her people, offering words of encouragement and support. She checked on the children, ensuring they were safe and calm, and spoke to the men, praising their bravery. Her leadership had been crucial in maintaining order and hope, and the tribe recognized her strength and wisdom. Walker spent the remainder of the day helping to organize the camp, making adjustments to the defenses, and planning for any future attacks. Though the raiders had been repelled, he knew that vigilance was essential. The desert was unpredictable and danger could return at any time. Preparation and awareness would be the key to continued survival. As evening approached, the camp settled into a quiet rhythm. Fires were lit for warmth and cooking, and people began to rest after the long day of struggle. Walker and Aeon found a moment to sit together, sharing a simple meal and reflecting on what had happened. "You were amazing today," Aeon said, her voice soft but sincere. "You helped us see that we are stronger than we realized, that even in the face of danger we can survive if we work together." Walker smiled faintly, a sense of satisfaction and relief washing over him. "You all were amazing. I only helped guide you." The strength, the courage, the determination, that was all you. For a long while, they sat in silence, watching the stars appear in the desert sky. The battle had tested them in ways they had never imagined, but it had also revealed the resilience and unity of the tribe. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and they had prevailed. Walker knew that the challenges were not entirely over. The desert was vast and threats could return. But for now, there was a sense of accomplishment, a quiet victory that could be savored. The tribe had learned to fight, to trust one another, and to survive against the odds. And they had done it together, guided by courage, preparation, and unwavering determination. Aeon looked at Walker, her expression filled with gratitude and respect. "We are stronger because of you," she said, "but also because of ourselves, and now we will be ready for whatever comes next." Walker nodded, feeling a deep sense of connection to the tribe and to Aeon. "Together," he said, "we face whatever comes together." The desert night returned to its quiet rhythm, the wind whispering through the rocks. Fires burned low in the camp, and the tribe rested, exhausted but safe. Walker and Aeon knew that challenges lay ahead, but they had proven something important, that courage, preparation, and unity could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. The battle had tested them, shaped them, and strengthened them. And as the stars twinkled above the desert, Walker and Aeon understood that they had forged something powerful, a bond of trust, respect, and shared purpose that would guide them through whatever came next. The sun rose slowly over the desert, casting golden light across the camp. The battle from the previous night was over, and for the first time in many days, the tribe could breathe easily. The air was filled with the quiet sounds of life resuming, children playing softly, women tending small fires, and men moving among the tents, repairing damage from the skirmish. The victory was hard-won, but it had brought a sense of relief and calm to everyone. Walker walked through the camp, observing the people he had come to know so well. Each face told a story of courage, resilience, and determination. The men who had trained under him moved with newfound confidence, no longer uncertain or hesitant. They had faced real danger and survived, and the experience had changed them. The boys who had assisted had learned quickly, gaining respect from their elders. The women had contributed in countless ways, proving that their role in the tribe's survival was equally vital. Aeon approached Walker, her expression bright yet thoughtful. She had spent the morning checking on the wounded and ensuring that everyone was accounted for. Her leadership had been steady throughout, a guiding force that had kept fear from turning into panic. "The tribe is safe now," she said quietly. "We survived because we worked together, and because you helped us prepare, we were able to face them and win." Walker shook his head, modest but firm. "I didn't win this," he said. "You did. Every single person here showed courage and strength. I only guided you, pointed out weak spots, and helped with tactics. The victory is yours." Aeon smiled faintly, but her eyes showed deep gratitude. "We could not have done it without you," she replied. "You brought knowledge, skill, and courage when we needed it most. That will not be forgotten." The day continued with quiet activity. The camp had suffered only minor losses, and the people focused on recovery and rebuilding. Fires were rekindled, water was carried from nearby streams, and simple meals were prepared. Laughter and conversation began to return, and the atmosphere shifted from tense vigilance to cautious celebration. Walker moved among the people, offering guidance where needed, but also observing the bonds that had grown stronger during the crisis. As afternoon arrived, Aeon gathered the tribe together. She spoke to them about the importance of unity, courage, and preparation. She praised their bravery and reminded them that their strength came not just from fighting, but from working together and supporting one another. Her words inspired confidence and pride. Even the youngest children listened attentively, sensing the importance of the moment. Walker stood beside her, silently proud. He had trained the men and boys, helped organize defenses, and guided the tribe through the crisis. But he also realized that true leadership came from someone who could inspire hope and courage. Aeon had done that with quiet strength, and the people had responded with loyalty and determination. Together, they had formed a team capable of overcoming great challenges. In the quiet moments after her speech, Walker and Aeon walked along the edge of the camp. The desert stretched endlessly before them, a land of beauty, danger, and opportunity. Walker reflected on how much had happened in such a short time. He had arrived as a stranger, a lone cowboy passing through the desert, and now he was part of a community that had faced danger and survived. "You have changed them," Walker said quietly, "not just in skill but in confidence. They will never forget what they learned or what they achieved." Aeon nodded, her eyes reflecting both pride and humility. "And you have changed us," she replied. "You showed us what we could do when we trust ourselves and each other. That lesson is more important than any weapon or trap." As the evening approached, the tribe began to celebrate quietly. Music, songs, and storytelling returned to the camp, a reminder that life was worth living and that joy could follow hardship. Children ran freely, laughing and playing, while adults shared simple meals and recounted the events of the previous night. The sense of community, strengthened by shared struggle, was palpable. Walker observed this, feeling a sense of satisfaction that went beyond the battle. The tribe had not only survived but had grown stronger as a result. They had learned to trust one another, to work together, and to face challenges with courage and intelligence. It was a lesson that would stay with them for generations, a story of resilience and hope. As night fell, Walker and Aeon sat together near a small fire. The stars twinkled brightly in the clear desert sky, reflecting off the eyes of the people around the camp. "Do you think they understand what they accomplished?" Walker asked. Aeon smiled softly. "Yes," she said. "They know that they are capable, that they are strong, and they know that together we can overcome any challenge." Walker nodded. He felt a deep connection not only to the tribe but also to Aeon. In such a short time, they had built trust, respect, and a shared understanding of purpose. It was a bond that went beyond words, a partnership forged in the fires of danger and strengthened by shared triumph. The days that followed were filled with recovery and rebuilding. The tribe repaired damaged tents, reinforced defenses, and ensured that their resources were secure. Walker continued to teach, but now the lessons focused on long-term preparation and strategy rather than immediate survival. The people had learned quickly, and their progress was remarkable. Aeon worked alongside Walker, coordinating efforts and supporting the tribe in every way possible. Her presence inspired confidence and courage, and the tribe responded with loyalty and respect. Together, they demonstrated that leadership was not about command alone, but about guiding, teaching, and empowering others to realize their own strength. One evening, as the sun set over the desert, Walker and Aeon sat together outside the main camp. The air was warm and the colors of the sky shifted from gold to deep purple. "We have come a long way," Aeon said quietly. Walker nodded. "Yes," he agreed, "and this is only the beginning. The tribe is stronger, wiser, and more united. They will survive whatever comes next." Aeon turned to him, a faint smile on her lips. "And we will face it together," she said. Walker felt a sense of peace he had not known in years. The desert, which had once felt lonely and harsh, now seemed full of promise and possibility. He had come as a stranger, but he was leaving as part of something meaningful, a community that had faced danger, survived, and grown stronger because of it. As the night deepened, the camp settled into a calm rhythm. Fires burned low, the wind whispered through the rocks, and the people rested safely. Walker and Aeon remained near the edge of the camp, watching over everyone, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. In that quiet moment, Walker realized something important. Life on the frontier was full of uncertainty and danger, but it was also full of opportunity and connection. Courage, preparation, and trust could overcome even the greatest challenges. And when people worked together, respecting each other's strengths and supporting one another, they could achieve more than they ever imagined. Aeon looked at Walker, her expression thoughtful. "You have given us more than survival," she said. "You have given us hope, confidence, and the knowledge that we are capable of facing anything. That is a gift we will never forget." Walker smiled, humbled by her words. "And you have given me something too," he said. "A reminder that courage, loyalty, and unity are what make people truly strong. I will carry that with me always." The stars shone brightly above, a silent witness to the strength and determination of the tribe below. Walker knew that their journey was far from over, but for now they had achieved something remarkable. They had faced danger, relied on each other, and emerged victorious. And in doing so, they had created a foundation for a future filled with hope, unity, and courage. As the night deepened, the desert became quiet once more. Fires burned low, the people rested safely, and Walker and Aeon sat together, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The bond they had forged was strong, built on trust, courage, and shared purpose. And in the vast, beautiful desert, that bond was a light that could never be extinguished.